Ang hirap kumita talaga ng grades, lalo pag biochem. Pagbati sa mga nararapat batiin. Ang ngala ko Herold at kayo ay nanonood sa napaka-espesyal na episode na pinamakatang Balutin Mo Ako sa Liwanag ng Ngayong Lechon, a very special biochemistry vlog. The relevancy of the four major biomolecules were discussed and highlighted fully in terms of health. Aside from the structural knowledge and theoretical approaches learned, it is highly important to see the practicality applied behind lectures. This vlog will give information about biochemical vitality on digestion process, classification of such, related learning experiences, among others. The student is tasked to classify his holiday celebrations featured variants of food to specific groups of biomolecules. He is also tasked to justify his classifications of such. Next, he is also asked to delineate the scientific process of glycolysis and glycogenolysis and how do they differ from gluconeogenesis and glycogenesis. In addition, the student is tasked to explain how are proteins in food converted into small units. Further tasks to give importance on what happens during beta fatty acid in line with how it is related to the formation or the synthesis of brown adipose tissues. Is also tasked to explain the importance of nutrition in the overall health of an individual, in line with his suggestions on how to keep a healthy living based on the featured foods in one's vlog. He is also tasked to discuss thoroughly the appetite of a human being. And lastly, he is tasked to highlight other important and significant learnings learned in this experiment, or the whole course. Come aboard, and we will educate you on certain biochemical properties and activities. Watch out! Ang bilis ko dito. Anyway, tayo ay nag-post ng isang tweet na kung saan meron tayong pinamakatang hashtag na Ask Herold, na kung saan pwede nyo akong tanungin ng inyong mga katanungan na walang kasagutan. Ngayon, meron tayong mga ilan-ilan na nag-send na kanilang mga liham via snare mail at via Friendster. At basahin na po natin. Ang unang katanungan ay galing kay, bigatin, galing kay President Obama. Okay, Potos 44 replying to Herold Buenconsejo. Which variants of food belong to specific biomolecule groups and give justification? Thanks. Bakit natin tanong, di ba? Ang inakala kong questions, anong favorite color mo? Sinong crush mo? Hindi ko na to. Anyway, sige. To give answers na nga po mga kababayan, ang una nating pagkain noong Pasko ay nori sheets. Nori sheets is the name for edible seaweed or known as the sea vegetable. Main ingredient is the dried red algae. Dried red algae contain high amount of fiber. Nori sheets are also harvested or cultivated for the extraction of polysaccharides. Nori sheets also contain high level of iodine. In conclusion, nori sheets are carbohydrates with fiber and high level of iodine, which is healthy. Second is we have the cucumber kimchi. This is a popular summer kimchi in Korea. Ingredients are as follows. Is a carbohydrate. Sea salt, neither type among four biomolecules. Carrot is a low carbohydrate vegetable. Garlic shite has very low protein content, fat, and carbohydrates. Korean chili flakes has 48% of carbohydrates, 16% of protein, and 36% of fat. Red apple is a carbohydrate. Sugar is a carbohydrate. Korean salted shrimps, low in calories and do not contain carbs, mostly protein. Korean fish sauce mostly contains protein. Ginger contains calories and carbs. In conclusion, cucumber kimchi is a share of carbohydrates and few levels of protein. Next is we have the herbed potato skillet. This is a popular food in Korea and nearby and distant countries. Ingredients are vegetable oil, none of the four biomolecules. Red bell pepper contains carbohydrates and small amounts of protein and fat. Potatoes are carbohydrates. Ground paprika, none of the four biomolecules. Salt, none of the four biomolecules. Ground black pepper contains high levels of carbohydrates, few fats and proteins. In conclusion, potato skillet is mostly carbohydrates with few contents of proteins and fats. Chicken lumpias, famous food in the Philippines. Ingredients are lumpia wrapper, made from flour, which is a carbohydrate. Water, none. Eggs are protein. Ground chicken is a protein. Liquid seasoning made neither from four biomolecules. Onion has low levels of carbohydrates. Carrots has 10% carbohydrates and it is extremely low in fat and protein. Egg is a protein. Black pepper has carbohydrate content. Cooking oil, assuming vegetable oil was used, dominantly none from the four biomolecules. In conclusion, chicken lumpias are mostly carbohydrates with few content of lipids and protein. Japchae is a very popular Korean dish. It is the #1 sought after dish, particularly during the Korean festive holidays. For example, Day and Harvest Festival. But it is also enjoyed on any other common day as well. Ingredients are as follow. Starch noodles contain carbohydrates. Ribeye fillet contains mostly lipids. Carrots contains carbohydrates. Baby spinach contains very few levels of carbohydrates. Bell pepper contains mostly water and small amounts of proteins and fats. Onions, neither. Mushroom has low levels of carbohydrates and some proteins. In conclusion, japchae is mostly under carbohydrates with content of lipids and proteins. Tteokbokki is a beloved Korean rice cake dish with many variations and a rich history. Literally translated as stir-fried rice cake. Main ingredients are rice cake pieces, mostly carbohydrates. Yumok sheets contain levels of fats and carbohydrates. Green cabbage, none. Scallions contains few levels of carbs, calories, fat, and sugar. Anchovy broth has percentages of carbs and fats. Korean red chili pepper contains few levels of carbohydrates. Soy sauce has low carbohydrate levels. Sugar is a carbohydrate. Corn syrup has moderate levels of carbohydrates. Garlic has very low protein content, fat, and carbohydrates. In conclusion, tteokbokki is mostly carbs with few levels of fats and proteins. Next is kimchi, a famous and well-known Korean food. Main ingredients are carrot is a carbohydrate. Fish sauce mostly contains protein. Garlic has very low protein content, fat, and carbohydrates. Hot pepper flakes has 48% carbohydrates content and 16% of protein and 36% fat. Korean radish has few contents of proteins and carbohydrates. Leek has minimal content of proteins. Cabbage has minimal content of proteins and carbohydrates. Onion has low levels of carbohydrates. Salt, neither type among four biomolecules. Squid has contents of fats and carbohydrates. Sugar, inclusion. Kimchi contains carbohydrates, few levels of fat content, and protein. At ayun lamang po ang ating pagkain noong Pasko. I hope President Obama I answered your question with enough justification. Thank you so much for remembering me amidst your very busy schedule. Diba? The impact is real. Moving on to our second question na sinend, wow, meron tayo dito galing kay J-Lo, the Jennifer Lopez. Okay, replying to Herold Buenconsejo. What happens during glycolysis and glycogenolysis? How is it different from gluconeogenesis and glycogenesis? Okay, thank you so much, Herold, for that wonderful Herold. Thank you so much, J-Lo, for that wonderful question. Could you repeat the question? Anyway, ayun nga po siya, okay? Ipapaliwanag natin ang glycolysis. Okay. According to Kumari 2018 from Sweet Biochemistry, glycolysis, or also known as the glycolytic pathway or the Enden-Meroff-Parnas pathway, breaks down glucose into 2,3-carbon compounds and generates energy. Glycolysis is used by all cells in the body for energy generation. The final product of glycolysis is pyruvate in aerobic settings and lactate in anaerobic conditions. Pyruvate enters the Krebs cycle for further energy production. By the way, the difference between aerobic setting and anaerobic conditions, aerobic settings use oxygen, while anaerobic doesn't have oxygen. Next is we have the glycogenolysis. According to Britannica, no date, glycogenolysis is a process by which glycogen, the primary carbohydrate stored in the liver and muscle cells of animals, is broken down into glucose to provide immediate energy and to maintain blood glucose levels during fasting. This occurs primarily in the liver and is stimulated by the hormones glucagon and epinephrine or adrenaline. While gluconeogenesis, sourcing from Teach Me Physiology, gluconeogenesis means the production of new glucose. This is a metabolic pathway that culminates in the generation of glucose from non-carbohydrate carbon substrates such as lactase, glycerol, and glucogenic amino acids. The process of gluconeogenesis is referred to endogenous glucose production or the EGP. Because it requires the input of energy, gluconeogenesis is the opposite of glycolysis, and glycolysis releases energy. It would be expected that gluconeogenesis would require the input of a lot of energy. And last, the glycogenesis. This is the formation of glycogen from glucose. Glycogen is synthesized depending on the demand for glucose and ATP or energy. If both are present in relatively high amounts, then the excess of insulin promotes the glucose conversion into glycogen for storage in liver and muscle cells. Glycogenesis takes place when blood glucose levels are insufficiently high to allow excess glucose to be stored in liver and muscle cells. Thank you so much, Jennifer Lopez, for that question. I hope nasagot natin yan tama. At ang kanyang hashtag, meron pa siya pa hashtags mga kabayan. Ask Herold Biochem for the win, tweet me a sparkle. And 3 exclamation points. Okay, anyway, tayo na ay mag-proceed sa panibagong questions. And I hope, no, wala lang Biochem question dito kasi hindi na ako natutuwa. No? Anyway, wow, okay. Ang ating letter sender, wow, ay ang BTS. Alright, Okay, at ang kanyang sabi, how are proteins in food converted into small units? Wala ba na mga questions na sino ba ang aking crush? Anong ginawa niyo ng New Year? Anong gano'n? Anyway, okay, sige, upang masagot natin yan, BTS, no? Okay. Sourcing from Science Learn Organization in New Zealand 2011, the basic building blocks of proteins are amino acids. The bonds that hold amino acids together are known as peptide bonds. To break the peptide bonds in a protein, a hydrolysis reaction is needed similar to that involved in breaking up carbohydrates. Enzymes known as proteases are needed to break up the protein. Proteins are digested in the stomach and small intestine. Protease enzymes break down proteins into amino acids. Digestion of proteins in the stomach is helped by stomach acid, which is strong hydrochloric acid. This also kills harmful microorganisms that may be in the food. Okay, thank you so much, BTS, for that question na hindi talaga na-expect kung ba't ang dami-daming question, ba't ganyan, di ba? Anyway, okay, next question po mga kabayan. Next question ay galing kay Dua Lipa. Wow! Nga naman na napakabigatin na nga ng ating influence at sako. Anyway, ang kanyang tanong ay, babasahin natin mga kabayan, teka lang. What happens during beta facet? Ano daw? What happens during beta facet? Okay. Take 3. What happens during beta fatty acid oxidation? Ano, nagigigil na ako eh. Bakit ito mga ganito yung katanungan? Iisa na nga lang yung brain cell ko nawindang pa siya bagong taon. Anyway, okay. Upang masagot yan na maring Dua Lipa, according to A. Bicam, no date, fatty acid beta oxidation consists of 4 major steps. 1. Dehydrogenation catalyzed by acyl-CoA dehydrogenase, which removes 2 hydrogen between carbons 2 and 3. Hydration catalyzed by enol-CoA hydratase, which adds water across the double bond. Dehydrogenation catalyzed by 3-hydroxyacyl-CoA dehydrogenase, which generates NADH. Thiolytic cleavage catalyzed beta-ketothiolase, which cleaves the terminal acetyl-CoA group. New acyl-CoA, which is 2 carbons shorter than the previous one. Consistent with its physiological role, BAT presents one of the highest FAO rates in the body. Most of the oxidation of long-chain fatty acids, or the LCAs, to acetyl-CoA takes place in the mitochondrial matrix. Although peroxisomal FAO has been implicated in thermogenesis, the shortened acyl-CoA then re-enters the beta oxidation pathway. Now, next question is, galing kay Oprah? Okay, babasahin natin mga kababayan. How is it related to the formation or synthesis of brown adipose tissues? Happy holidays. 3 Christmas tree emojis. Okay, hindi ko alam if Christmas tree emojis mean good luck B o biochem. Mali ko. Okay. Upang masagot yan, Oprah, ang daming time. Okay. The brown adipose tissue, or BAT, evolved as a specialized thermogenic organ in mammals. Nutrients, fatty acids, and glucose from the intracellular storage and peripheral tissues are critical to the BAT thermogenic function. The BAT converts the chemical energy stored in nutrients to thermal energy through UCP1-mediated non-shivering thermogenesis, or the NST. Activated BAT through UCP1-mediated non-shivering thermogenesis contributes significantly to the whole body energy substrate homeostasis. It is now well recognized that adult humans possess BAT with functional thermoactivity. Thus, BAT energy metabolism has a different therapeutic potential in the management of different metabolic disorders such as obesity, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, and lipid abnormality in humans. Once FAs, or fatty acids, have been synthesized, they can be esterified to be used for fatty acid oxidation, or the FAO, or stored as triglycerides in lipid droplets. In BAT, or blood adipose tissues, the TG are associated with thermogenic activity. Since triglycerides are composed of molecules of glycerol and 3 esterified fatty acids, triglyceride synthesis depends on intracellular level of glycerol 3-phosphate, or the G3P, the activated form of glycerol and first intermediary in TG synthesis. Thus, G3P levels are preserved under vigorous control in brown adipocytes. It has been shown that rosiglitazone, a PPRAY agonist, increases BAT glycerol kinase activity, which phosphorylates glycerol generating G3P. Since G3P comes from glucose, glucose metabolism plays a key role in BAT as an important glucose clearing organ, specifically under sympathetic activation. In fact, G3P is a major substrate for BAT respiration. I hope I answered your question, Miss Winfrey. Next question. Wow, coming from the king, LeBron James. At Herold Buenconsejo, what is the importance of nutrition in the overall health of an individual? Good question. Okay, as discussed by Dr. Felix Chiropractic, the vitalities of proper nutrition for health are as follows. Number 1, improved health and wellness. Swapping unhealthy foods for healthy foods can improve health and wellness by increasing the strength of your bones and teeth, improving your energy levels and mental clarity, decreasing your weight, improving your sleep, and reducing risk for high blood pressure and diabetes. Healthy bones and teeth. Calcium and vitamin D are needed to maintain healthy bones and teeth. Calcium is what helps build and regenerate teeth and bones, while vitamin D is needed in order to help the body absorb the calcium. Both of these nutrients can be gotten by consuming low-fat milk and dairy products and consuming probably dark green leafy vegetables such as mustard greens, kale, okra, spinach, and collard greens. Improved energy and mental clarity. One of the first benefits of a healthy diet is increased energy and mental clarity. This is because the body is finally getting all the macro and micronutrients it needs to function properly and rejuvenate itself on a cellular level. Weight reduction. Individuals who are overweight will notice a decrease in their weight over time. This is because fatty, non-nutritious foods with empty calories have been replaced with lower calorie. Healthy foods with lots of vitamins and minerals, which leaves the individual feeling more satisfied. Improved sleep. Individuals often report better sleep once they have improved their diets. This is due to consuming higher quality foods that require less filtering by the body to remove toxins, decrease risk of heart disease and diabetes. Diets that are high in saturated fats and processed foods can lead to being overweight, which increases a person's risk for getting type 2 diabetes and heart disease. By increasing the amount of healthy fats and decreasing unhealthy fats and processed foods, the body is better able to regulate its blood sugar levels and weight is reduced, which decreases the risk factors for developing certain obesity-related disorders. Now, okay, meron tayo ulit panibagong question. Galing sa, EXO, a famous Korean band. suggest ways on how to keep a healthy living based on the featured foods in your vlog. Hashtag BQ, hashtag EXO, hashtag Wear1EXO, hashtag BaconLife, and hashtag BeyondLive, BaconLife, hashtag Neighbor, hashtag Okay, diba? Nag-promote pa. Anyway, okay po mga kababayan. To answer you, BQ, no? One could maintain a healthy living based on these selected variants of food, namely nori sheets, cucumber kimchi, herbed potato skillet, chicken lumpias, japchae, tteokbokki, and ordinary kimchi by. Since majority of these contain high levels of carbohydrates with observed minimal levels of proteins and fats, I suggest that we should eat those not in frequent intervals and not simultaneously in one sitting. To further explain, these variants of food greatly complement one of the other when big celebrations as the Christmas or the New Year's Eve arise. But if these variants of food are taken every day or frequently in a simultaneous manner, the person who is intaking these variants of food may excess addition of adipose tissues, leading to weight increasing that would result to numerous health complications. While celebrations as the aforementioned New Year's Eve and Christmas Day only happen once a year, we have to be mindful of our calorie intake and its interval. At the same time, we also have to take note of drinking green tea after eating sumptuous meals, as this for it promotes better digestion and eliminates toxins once the digestion process completely dominates the whole scene. Also, exercising the day after is extremely essential, for it promotes enhanced blood flow and weight reduction. As we eat deliciously, do not also forget to be food responsible for a healthy life and lively digestion. I hope that answered your question, Baekhyun. Next! Thank you so much, EXO Baekhyun, for that question. We will now proceed to another question. This question is asked by, the now US President-elect Joe Biden. Okay, discuss thoroughly the appetite of a human being. Ganito ba tayo? Okay, sige. Pagod na ako sa explain. Anyway, okay. Biophysiology of appetite is the scientific attempt to understand eating, the feelings associated with eating, and the contributions of eating to bodily homeostasis, body weight, and adiposity. Neural and endocrine signals encoding information about the flavor of food, gastrointestinal events, and metabolic events are integrated by the brain to produce eating. The principal signals occurring within meals are flavor stimuli, which give rise to hedonic judgments that can stimulate or inhibit eating during the meal, and satiation signals which terminate the meal. Across-meal signals mediate longer-term influences on meal size and meal timing. All aspects of eating are fundamentally shaped experience. Nature prioritizes eating as so essential to our survival that the process is linked to 3 places in the brain. Number 1 is the hypothalamus, which governs metabolism. Number 2 is the limbic center of our emotion brain, which governs dopamine for pleasure. And 3, the hindbrain, which wires the behavior of eating into our unconscious habits so that we don't have to think about it. This creates a powerful neural circuit that overrides the cognitive brain to ensure that we continue to eat again and again. There are obviously some extreme conditions that bypass this mechanism, such as anorexia, life-threatening medical illnesses, or severe depression. The science of appetite includes being in a body equipped with some or all of the five senses: what we smell, see, taste, touch, and hear affect what we crave and desire. Our senses may dull from a monochrome palette to food and come alive in a sea of colorful nutrients. One mechanism that regulates appetite is the balance between hormones, particularly ghrelin, the hunger hormone, and leptin, the satiation hormone. Ghrelin tells our brains that we are hungry when we perceive our bellies to be empty, and it helps to regulate the rate at which we use our energy. If we were to use our energy too fast, we would rival away and spend our short time on earth searching in panic for food. If we use it too slowly, we'd constantly feel weighted down and lethargic. So our bodies come equipped with a checks and balance system for hunger. In addition, we're wired with powerful mechanisms to fulfill that hunger. Our bodies are designed to break whole foods down into energy through the process of digestion. As ghrelin, blood sugar levels, and sensory motor signals tell the brain that our stomach is empty, we begin to feel hungry, and we initiate our habitual search to satisfy our hunger. Our senses of sight and smell stimulate gastric acid secretion and motility as we hunt for food, preparing the body for consumption. Taste and the sense of texture release salivary enzymes in the mouth while we chew, which begins to break down the food for easier digestion further along the alimentary canal. This sends a flood of the dopamine we had been craving into our brain and creates that powerful feeling of pleasure and satisfaction in our bodies. Now the food gets taken over by our involuntary smooth muscles. The esophagus contracts to move the food from our mouths to our stomachs. Our stomach transforms the bites of food we've chewed into a paste called chyme. Through acids and enzymes, nutrients from our food are absorbed in our small intestines with the help of the pancreas, liver, and gallbladder. Through enzymes that break down proteins, fats, and carbohydrates for use in our bloodstream. The large intestines eliminate waste, recycle extra water and electrolytes back into the body, and store bacteria. The useful bacteria synthesize essential vitamins and nutrients, break down last bits of food, and protect against harmful bacteria. The more present we are when we are eating, the more accurately we can read our body's cues and aid our digestion. However, things like traumatic experiences, biological or hormonal imbalances, or unmet psycho-emotional or spiritual needs can confuse these signals. Getting clear on where our appetites originate can help us satisfy that hunger more directly. And ako na magsagot, no? Last question na po ito, mga kabayan. At ang last question natin ay galing kay Miss Taylor Swift. Replying to Herold Buenconsejo, highlight other important and significant learnings obtained from the course. Sending my love to your family. Thank you so much, Miss Taylor Swift, for that question.
Sandali lang! Kami po'y nagbabalik dito sa Face to Face at talaga namang pinagpapawisan kami dito sa studio sa init ng talakan ng ating mga bisita. Galit na galit po itong si Damian dahil dinaya nga raw siya di umano ni Aling Pia sa Tong Eats dahil pau na raw nagpumilit pa raw. pang maglaro. Teka muna, Aling Pia. Pakikwento sa amin naman. Ano ba ang nangyari talaga?
Anyway, I have learned so much in biochemistry. From the biochemical properties of lipids, carbohydrates, proteins, and nucleic acids. But the important pieces of information I have gained and learned are: number one, with proper grasp of science, we could deal with our health much more rationally, and we take this discussion from a perspective of rather being controlled by analytical thinking rather than mere biases. Another learning I've learned is the difference between oils, that not all oils are healthy, that some are classified under unsaturated fatty acids and some are classified under saturated fatty acids. Third point is probably the resiliency and the eagerness to really learn biochemistry. Biochemistry is one of the hardest allied health subjects or courses that one will take a long way of getting that MD, that RN, that PPRP, that RMT, that RPH, among others. I guess the eagerness to learn, despite in the midst of difficult concepts, hard to digest, learning notes or concepts or topics, and having the fortitude to embrace the challenge despite of difficulties is one of the best things I've learned from this course. As finals will soon be culminating and the semester out from biochemistry will be over, I hope and I am willing to render more time in understanding really the concepts that made the subject so much difficult. And I hope that with my learnings I could apply them as a future nurse or as a future allied health professional, engage myself in educating the general public about the importance of knowing their health from an unbiased perspective. Biochemistry saves lives. So, despite of its difficulty, it saves lives. It is difficult, it is hard, for it saves. So again, thank you so much for sharing and for tweeting your questions to Ask Herold. And I hope that you all have fruitful 2021 ahead of you all. My name is Herold Buenconsejo, a student from BSN 11, believing that we should always pursue our higher purposes. Thank you and mabuhay!